I want to talk about the march of leftism across South America. Very troubling development, and we've seen it happen in recent months and in recent years. Now, of course, we know a lot about Venezuela. I talk about it on the podcast. Debbie, of course, talks about it a lot as well. But a number of other countries, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, even Chile. And Chile was kind of the most unkindest cut of all. And what I mean by that is that Chile has actually enjoyed an economic boom because of capitalism, because of free market policies. In fact, free market policies put into effect with the advice of American economists like Milton Friedman. And going back almost 50 years or more now, Chile created a pension system that produced a decent provision for people as they got into old age. Again, it was a pension system not like America's Social Security plan, but a pension system that's invested in the market. And as the market went up, people saw their fortunes become a lot more comfortable and be able to provide for them when they needed it. And here Chile, of all places, pivoted to the left by electing a real far leftist, in fact, somebody who has in the past been associated with communism, a guy named Gabriel Boric, an activist who came marching in, promised a kind of new Chile, in fact said that he was going to rewrite the Chilean constitution. He says the constitution was put into effect under a dictator, Augusto Pinochet. We're going to redo the whole constitution. There was a referendum in 2020 and a majority, in fact a decisive majority of Chileans voted, yes, we do need a new constitution. But this guy Boric thought that what the Chileans meant is that they wanted a new far leftist constitution, taking the entire leftist kind of wish list and sticking it right in the constitution. So it actually would be the supreme law of Chile. This, by the way, generated tremendous excitement in America because you have Bernie Sanders endorsing the proposed Chilean constitution, and the New York Times was on board. But the Chileans had a vote, and the constitution was the proposed constitution decisively defeated, in fact, 63 to 37%. Now, as with a lot of polls, right till the end, the left was like, this is really close. This is a real referendum on Gabriel Boric. Yeah, it is a referendum on him, but basically it's a 2-to-1 thrashing that this proposed constitution took. And what this means, basically, is it's really back to the drawing board. Now, across the world, the left is up in arms, and they're acting like these Chileans are really dumb. They don't really know what's good for them. Here's Al Jazeera. The Constitution, if approved, will guarantee adequate housing rights, a national health care system, enhanced employment benefits. State bodies and public companies must adhere to gender parity. So to the left, it's like, what's not to like? This should get 90% support. Pretty much the same tone was taken by the New York Times. The New York Times goes, breaking news. I was laughed when I read this. Voters in Chile rejected a sweeping left-leaning, so not leftist, but left-leaning. What the communists want to do is left-leaning. What somebody who's right-leaning is far-right. This is New York Times nomenclature. It's worth being onto it. Anyway, voters in Chile rejected a sweeping left-leaning constitution that would have guaranteed a record number of rights. So again, for the New York Times, who would be against getting a record number of rights? And then, in fact, a later article on the same topic, the rejected constitution would have legalized abortion, adopted universal health care, and enshrined more than 100 constitutional rights, a global record.
Sounds like the Democrats.
This sounds like the Democrats here. We're enshrining 100 constitutional rights. Oh, wow, here's another leftist country. They're enshrining 500 constitutional rights. Who could be against 500? How about 1,000 the next time? You basically have a right not to be fearful, a right not to be grumpy. So this is how these people are. They don't operate in the real world. And yet they seem to think that there's no intellectual alternative to their worldview. And continuing on with the proposed Chilean constitution, there was a whole chapter on environmental rights. Apparently, quote, nature has rights. So, in the American Constitution, all men are created equal and are granted by their creator inalienable rights. These are rights for human beings. But no, according to the Chilean Constitution, the rights for animals, nature has rights. And indigenous groups have rights. They have the right to their lands and territories, and they have their own parallel justice system. So if an indigenous guy goes and murders somebody else, no, they can't be tried in the normal Chilean court. They've got to have their own court. So if you looked at the articles before the vote, it sounded like this is going to go through. This is the greatest. Here's, again, Al Jazeera. It's only, quote, far right-wing figures like 2021 presidential candidate Jose Antonio Cast are campaigning against this proposed constitution. But all the good people, including former Chilean President Michelle Bachelet, who was, by the way, also a UN human rights chief, she was championing this new constitution. But down it goes to a 2-1 defeat. And I think it's a very narrow sort of salvation for Chile. It's not the end of the fight. They're going to try to redraft this constitution, probably be a little more cunning about it. But for now, I would say Chile, although making a horrible mistake in my view by voting for this idiotic leftist Gabriel Boric, has nevertheless, in shutting down this new proposed constitution, averted the precipice.